Welcome to Cricket Next, Shannon. Great to see you here.
Thank you very much for having me.
With that, it also reminds me of a technique, BPI. What's that technique about? I want to know from you because I've
Yeah.
heard a lot about it and but I don't know the details. I want to know all the details of what it is and how Australians are using it.
Yeah, so I have a high performance cricket training facility in Melbourne. And because of the weather in Melbourne, most of our training facilities are indoors. When
Yeah,
the summer hits and the sun is out, most people are outdoors in Australia. And then our winter is probably is colder. It's not so much like monsoon. It's a pure winter where you can't play cricket, particularly in Melbourne and the southern
yeah.
states. So, at my training facility, during COVID, we were locked down in Melbourne, and we created the Cricket Performance Lab. And what the Cricket
Okay.
Performance Lab does, in essence, is we can attach a value, um, an objective value to the feel of a cricket bat. And the metric we use is called BPI, which is the balance point index.
Hmm.
So Jake, Marnus Labuschagne, Daniel Kerr, a lot of Hayden Kerr, Josh Philippe. So a lot of professional players, Glenn Maxwell, Marcus Stoinis, have been through. And what we effectively do is we fit cricket bats, the perfect cricket bat to the
Okay.
player, based on their swing dynamics. So we have a whole heap of metrics that we understand how they use and swing a particular cricket bat, what it does to their stance, what it does to their swing. We're the first people in the world to actually go through that and develop this technology. And Jake was effectively a guinea pig at the start of it. That Jake was
Okay.
around. So he, while we were testing all our data and the lab, which is, as I said, based at my high performance training center. So we use a lot of that data in terms of exit velocity, which is timing off the bat, launch angles. So these metrics are starting to appear in particularly televised cricket. And we have a real understanding of how Jake swings a cricket bat. He's got a really in-depth understanding of what bat actually suits his game the best. And then we go to cricket bat manufacturers. So he's sponsored by Kookaburra, and Kookaburra in Melbourne. Their Australian headquarters is just around the corner
Yeah.
from the Cricket Performance Lab. So we then talk to the bat maker and tell him exactly how to make a bat that suits Jake's game.
Okay, so help me understand. There must be a score that they must be getting, right? So a BPI score must be there. So just say someone gets 80. So how does
Yeah.
that
So
score, what's an ideal score, and how
yep.
these cricketers are held with that score? So as I said, for example, if someone gets 80, what does that reflect? And what should be an ideal score for batters like, say, Marnus or Jake
Yep.
and others?
Yep. So the first thing is there is no ideal score.
Okay.
Every individual batter is a case study of one. So
Okay.
it's effectively like saying, what's your favorite ice cream?
Okay.
So Marnus's BPI will be different to Jake's BPI, which will be different to Glenn Maxwell's BPI. So in terms of understanding what BPI is, it's about weight distribution. It's about the balance point of a cricket bat. It's about the weight distribution.
Hmm.
And effectively, if you think of it, it's on a scale from 0 to 100. So 0 would be a little size 1 cricket bat that you quite often see really small children swinging. 100 would be Kyron Pollard, £3.6, 9 grips, that
Okay.
he is probably the only person in the world that can move. So the higher the BPI, the harder the cricket bat is to move.
Okay.
But if you can move that cricket bat because of your physical capabilities and your swing dynamics, by definition, the harder you'll hit the ball. The lower the BPI, the more control,
Okay.
more ability to actually maneuver the ball rather than just power hit.
Okay.
And so if you understand the science of cricket bats, which we do, so the lower the BPI,
Mm-hmm.
the more weight distribution of the willow towards your hands. Higher
Oh, okay.
BPI, more weight distribution towards the lower end or the toe of the bat.
Oh.
So Jake, for example, is a BPI 83.
Mm-hmm.
So that's no better than an 82 or worse than an 85. That just
Oh,
means
okay.
that he effectively has, the ideal exit velocity, which is timing. He can move the bat at the optimum bat velocity speed. And his data in terms of, we also capture energy transfer and what we use a balance plate. So we understand how much force is going through the ground.
Mm.
So a different bat at a different BPI will change all that.
Okay.
So what we effectively do, it's been around a long time in golf. So
Mm-hmm.
golf fitting, a lot of the professionals. So even in Australia or America, a lot through Asia, basically everywhere now. If you don't even have to be serious. You can be a casual golfer. You can go to a golf retailer and hit a
Mm-hmm.
whole heap of balls, and they capture a whole heap of data, which is what we now do for cricket. And then they attach the perfect golf clubs to your game. So we're doing that for cricket bats.
Okay. So how is the calculation done of the score?
Yeah, so there's a whole heap of data we capture. So that exit velocity, launch angle, there's a swing stat, there's a power stat.
Okay.
So we have what we effectively call a number of different ways that we measure that. So we use a bat sensor, which have been around for a little while. We also have a launch monitor, which actually measures where the balls are going, the distance they're being hit. That all gets plugged into a proprietary software system that we've developed. And then that will, give us the data that we understand. But the balance point index has been around in baseball for a
Mm-hmm.
while. So 1 in 3 Major League Baseballers. So our partners are in America. They're the Baseball Performance Lab. So BPI is an algorithm that sits in behind a scale, which
Okay.
effectively, scales have always given us the weight of cricket bats.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've been able to do is and then really understand the weight distribution, the balance point. We have moisture content of cricket bats, which can affect how they swing. Um, Anything you basically do to a cricket bat, you put a different grip on it, you put some fiberglass tape on it, you put a fiber or an extra tech over the face of the bat,
Yeah.
will change how that cricket bat swings.
Wow, that's so interesting. And I want to
It is.
know,
Yeah.
um, how is it helping the cricketers in real-time situations? So say in crucial stages, does it guarantee power hitting or does it help them for power hitting or like good quality shots or timing? How does it help in match situations?
Yeah, all of the above.
Okay.
So for some guys, they might want to come in. So the first time Marnus came in, for example, was just before he went to South Africa before the World Cup last year.
Okay.
Um, and Marnus had told us that through the Ashes series that was prior to that, he'd used 9 different cricket bats.
Okay.
Um, and he'd only batted 9 times in that series. He was actually changing them at lunch break and drinks breaks.
Yeah.
Um, so his was obviously a 1 day focus. So we wanted to increase his bat speed. We wanted to give him the flexibility to actually maneuver the ball around. And Marnus is unique that,
Mm.
very good player. But I think if you spoke to Marnus, which I do regularly, he would tell you that he's not an overly powerful sort of a player.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the power of a Glenn Maxwell or a Fraser-McGurk. So his game, particularly 1 day game, is a lot about placement, a lot
Hmm.
about sweeps in India. So that bat, when we found the right bat for him, that allowed him to have the flexibility. We've seen players that it can give them access to different areas of the ground. So having the
Mm.
right bat, some players are very strong through the offside.
Yeah.
Having the right bat has changed their backlift and their downswing and given them the flexibility to play 360-degree cricket. We've
Yeah.
had some people that it has purely been about power hitting.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what does it allow a player to do? We've found, and we're both, my partner and I, so Chris, who's the master bat fitter, who helped me create CPL. We're both coaches. We're both level 3 Cricket Australia coaches. So what we always suspected and what the data is proving is the easiest way to change performance was change the bat.
That's interesting.
So yeah, so obviously we've built careers around technical advice and mental
Yeah.
advice, and we talk to players about strength and conditioning and doing all this stuff. But what we've never done is looked at equipment, and so we've now done up to about 200 fittings, probably about 60 or 70 pro player fittings, and every one of them. Even just the data we capture, they've never been exposed to that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of strange to think that professional cricketers have never had the ability to know how far they've hit the ball
Well,
or
yeah.
at what launch angle they've hit the ball. We can see it on TV coverage after they've hit it, but there's all different metrics. So in terms of what it does, we think it's 90%, technique, and there's also the 10% intangible of if you go through a 3-hour process to find the right cricket bat, there's probably a 10% confidence element to it that.
Well, absolutely. Quickly, in just a couple of minutes, Shannon, I want to know from you, from ODI World Cup men's to women's to under 19, what is that one thing that Australian cricketers are doing in this world that they are putting no platform for any other team to win such crucial tournaments? And how Australian cricketers are so unbeatable when it comes to such big tournaments? Is there something that you eat
Yeah.
differently during the times of such tournaments? What is it?
Yeah. If I had to put my finger down on something, I think we're just ultra competitive.
Okay.
Australia by its nature, all sport, is very competitive, and it's easy to say that, and most people would say, well, the Indians are just as competitive, and it's harder to get a spot in an Indian representative team because of the volume of population, but
Absolutely.
just in terms of being able to execute under pressure when a lot of our training and is around a contest, and when everything's built around a contest, it's probably why a country that's relatively small in size, when you compare us to India and Pakistan and even Afghanistan, and so we're only 25 million, but we're just sort of competitive by nature, and sport plays such a major part in Australia. It's
It's a
like
sporting
cricket is
nation, yeah.
it is, yeah, it is, and it's in, it's very ingrained in children that sport. We have a lot of options in Australia now. That traditionally was Australian rules football in winter,
Yeah,
cricket in summer. Now you can play any sport you choose to, but
yeah.
I think it's just that competitive nature. We probably were the first, I guess, country to really look at strength and conditioning and diet and all that sort of stuff as well. So
Yeah.
I think that plays a role. The females, it's the fastest growing cricket market in Australia, and the girls are becoming like super athletes.
They are too
I've got
good.
quite a few girls I coach, and it
Yeah.
really is scary how talented they are and what they're able to do. So yeah, and then at the under 19 level, I think it's the first World Cup the Australians have won in a while. I've had a little bit to do with a couple of with young Ollie Peake, who was probably the standout who came in as a replacement player,
Yeah.
and he, as a 17-year-old, has come through a really competitive. Our club cricket setup is very competitive. Um, so yeah, if I had to put my finger on one thing, I would say that just competitive and being up for a contest. I think is probably what holds us in really good stead, and what allows us to execute, in high pressure situations, which finals in international competitions tend to do.
Yeah.
I think when you're week in and you're day to day and every weekend is competitive, when those big moments come in high pressure situations, I think the Australians are probably well suited to actually being able to execute handle the pressure and make good decisions. At the
Absolutely.
end of
Yeah.
the day, it's a decision-making game. So
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I completely agree because Australians have won World Cups so many times that they are also very mentally ready for tough
yep.
situations like that. Well, thank you so much, Shannon, for talking with me. It was great chatting with you around different techniques, Jake, and what Australian cricketers are doing across the world, and also the coming T20 sensations. Thanks a lot, Shannon. Hope to see you super soon again. Thanks a lot.